This is an all-star lineup today, so thank you, everybody. This is only the second conversation that we have held since launching NAAAN CONNECT in March, and we're very thrilled to have this group with us. This is a group of young professionals who met at the GFROS annual meeting hosted by the NAAAN here in Denver in October of last year. And they formed a friendship and a bond, have stayed in touch with each other very organically since the time of our meeting. So we wanted to honor that and to let all of you know about their work, the work that's underway. And we thought it would be a great opportunity for one of the early conversations that we're hosting as a follow-up to our GFROS meeting and as an opportunity to really get to know some of the young professionals throughout our 3 countries more completely. So today we will have Menilek Beyen from Canada, Bella Wood from the United States, Kalysha Hanrahan from Canada, Nikita Bhusal, originally from Nepal and currently a graduate student in the United States, and Guadalupe Lopez Soto. So I'm going to turn it over to, they will all self-introduce themselves with an opportunity to dive a little deeper into their programs and their work. And then we're going to open it up conversation amongst the panel and then go to Q&A with the audience. So please put your questions in the side. We'll be monitoring those. And we're a small enough group, we can also open and informally have some time for Q&A after the presentations. So Rebecca, would you like to cover how we're doing our translation today for this meeting?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you all here for our second conversation on Connect. If you haven't already had the chance to do so, please take a moment to scan this link on your phone. We'll have English and Spanish presenters today, and Wordly will allow us to see translated captions as we're all speaking. Additionally, if you'd rather prefer to listen, you could put in headphones on your phone when you scan the QR code and listen as well. So you have a couple options there, but you scan the QR code, choose your preferred language, and select attend. And later on, as we move into conversation, we just ask that if you are going to ask your question or engage in a language that is different from the person who spoke before you, just give us a moment to switch that on the back end. But we're excited to have you all. And next, I'll turn it over to Menilek.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Menilek. I'm a Ethiopian Canadian University of Toronto student here in Toronto, Canada. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit about what I do and about the work that we are hoping to do here with NAAAN CONNECT. So next slide, please. So NAAAN has several different thematic goals, and I wanted to touch on each of them through this little brief introduction. But one of the things with the first goal, as far as biodefense and management of natural disasters, was just to share some experience I had when I was working through a summer as a field technician for a company called Bioforest here in Ontario. And a lot of the goals that we were doing were about pest management, particularly in urban forestry, which is most of my background and education through undergrad and through some of my graduate education. And here is an example of one of my coworkers. I have barely any photos of my work in the field because I never take selfies, but here managing and monitoring emerald ash borer in some of City of Toronto's urban trees. Next slide, please. Currently, I'm a PhD student working in urban forest restoration. And so a lot of my work has been sort of an agronomy adjacent set of skill sets, such as soil analyses, meadow and forest species population managing and monitoring. And a lot of the time I'm spent in a field neck deep in goldenrod and other plants, but also collecting samples to take back into the lab where we do a lot of our analyses on physical properties of soil as well as chemistry of soil. And I'm particularly interested in how shrubs and trees grow in these restored sites. Next slide, please. Now, the thing I really want to talk with you most about is the work that I'm currently doing with the Canadian Agricultural Youth Council. And so I'm part of the second cohort of the Canadian Agricultural Youth Council, which was recruited about a year and a half ago. And in this cohort, we're an assemblage of youth from all over Canada that was recruited by the federal government to advise on policy from stakeholders in the agricultural sector. And this has been one of the best experiences of my life, thanks to being on the youth council. It's been a great opportunity to meet people from a variety of backgrounds and to share our love of agriculture and of feeding people and stewardship of the natural spaces. And so here's some of our 25 members. And I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about how we were formed and what we do. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to share is sort of like my burning questions that I'm currently exploring with my PhD, and it has a lot to do with how we manage and decide on what we're going to use land and resources for in the environment. And so this is the mosaic of the Greater Toronto Area, and you can see sort of three main general criteria, which would be our settlements and built areas in the city core. Next slide, please. And as we progress out of the city, we start to get into our rural patches as well as some of the remaining natural patches. And so what I'm really curious about is how we manage the landscape and then how the proximity to different types of usages for these lands are impacting the quality and the success of either the remaining green spaces and the plants and soils that are affected by their surroundings. So that's sort of what I'm pursuing currently. Next slide. So the final thing I just want to end off with is sort of my goals as far as what I'm planning to do after. And so again, I've had an opportunity to participate with NAAAN and the NGFRAS recently. And again, part of what I would like to bring is my education in ecology and soil sciences, and then also bring that to policy and advising on agronomy, agriculture, and natural spaces. And so I'm really excited to have a conversation on that today. Next slide. Bella, care to take it?
Yeah, thanks, Menilek. And so I'm Bella, and I'm joining you from Boyeros, New Mexico, which is northeastern New Mexico, population 4, but it is 1 right now because I am the only one here. So everyone else is out in the city, at least 60 miles away. So I'm a 9th generation. I'm the 9th generation on this land, which is an active cow-calf operation. But before returning to the ranch, I was a teacher in New York, in Brooklyn. And I would also think that I am a very pro-systems person. I'm a systems advocate. And so from my experience, I developed the question asking how we can develop attractive opportunities in ag, food systems, environmental work, and rural economic development, and how we can make these opportunities attractive for all. So I coupled what I knew as a teacher, which was a lack of information that students have of the existing opportunities that exist in agriculture, but also the gaps that exist on the land. Being here and living with my grandparents, I know that there are a lot of older generation ranchers and farmers, producers in general, who don't have access to the innovation that could be there. So this is when, if you want to go to the next slide, sorry. This is my family, and this is the 9 generations that are on this land. And so what I created to answer this question was Ranch Lab. So if you want to go to the next slide. If we want to talk about conservation, regeneration, sustainability, our environment, rural economies, and improving innovation, we're going to need better marketing. And I want to think about how we do that, which means for me, improving pathways for young people to get involved in all things ag. And so this is going to have to start at a young age. As a 1st grade and 4th grade teacher, that's where I noticed that most. In Brooklyn, my kids had no idea about the things that went on in the environment, in food. Food comes from the grocery store, and there's not a lot of thought or education about what happens before that. And so if we are improving pathways through education, through active choice to tell young people, and starting at a young age, the importance of food production, climate smart practices, and build a generation who's very solutions focused, that's going to be really important for these next steps. And then we're going to have to do active inclusion. And what that means is young professionals participating in every facet of what's happening. And so in the NAAAN specifically, that focuses on embedding young professional participation in every facet. We just heard from Menilek, and I can think of plenty of other of my colleagues who are doing incredible work in soil, in water, in biodefense, in natural disasters, and also working at the crossroads of all of those things, because they all do interact. And so being, in addition to ourselves having skills that are innovative and resourceful, we also are going to be the ones who are carrying out policy that is created today past the lives of those who are creating it. And so that means we need to develop a system of inclusion, much like Canada has done. I am so impressed, and I urge all of us to focus on how we can create that everywhere, to share and learn. And as Carrie spoke of, this is an example of what happens when we get a bunch of young people in the same room. We sat in the back after the 3 days of conversation, and Carrie had sent the whole room into an 8-minute session of talking about what you wanted to carry on from this project. And all of us turned to one another, and we talked about how amazing it was to not be the only young person in the room. Having to vouch and fight for your entire generation is a really big task. And so we created this group chat. In the 8 minutes, we had created a group chat that had 14 people in it with a QR code that we could take into the world, because we're in this world, and being able to share it with any other young professional. So by improving these pathways and active inclusion, this all leads back to marketing. We're going to market ag as an opportunity for people to get involved. And when we're encouraged to be here, the industry will grow. And so these slides are photos of my family ranch. And the reason that this place looks the way it does is that my grandparents encouraged innovation from the very beginning. They returned 23 years ago to, you could have eaten off of it. I mean, it was just dirt. And so younger generations, myself and my parents' generation, was asked to identify problems and propose solutions. And my grandmother and I are now asked to speak often about succession planning. And that's really what we're trying to do here, right? If younger generations are put in the driver's seat before we lose the wisdom of older generations, that's where the nexus of innovation and wisdom can really happen, if we're encouraged to be there. So next slide. What is next for me is, namely, right now, the food summit that's happening in McAllen, Texas, later this month. And the whole purpose of this is to establish action through the government and also through community support. So that's going to happen by a technical assistance conversation, as well as getting all stakeholders in the same room to talk about next actions. And what's really exciting is we now have a large contingency of USDA folks coming from DC as well as regional offices to be a part of those conversations, and namely to listen to the needs of a place. The Rio Grande Valley is historically not included in any of these conversations. And so then I'm also working to develop a system for local institutional food procurement, namely right now schools. This all goes back to improving those pathways. And if young kids who are eating lunch know their farmer, they can meet their farmer, they can learn curriculum about what those things, where their food came from, they're going to see themselves in ag. There was a water conference at Spur in November, and the Secretary Vilsack said, I want any young person to come and join the USDA. Whatever your interest, I want you in the USDA. And that's the fact. We can see ag as a career opportunity anywhere. So you can be interested in anything and ag can work for you. And so that's going to also be policy work and educational curriculum design. Those are the things that I'm interested in. I clearly like projects. That's definitely my career choice. And so how can we keep working, and I keep working, and this group keep working, where those challenges connect and embedding young people throughout that all, and young professionals specifically throughout that. And so I think Kalysha is next. Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kalysha Hanrahan. I'm currently the Think Ag Manager with Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and I'm super excited to be here today and talk about some of the work that we're doing in Canada. Next slide, please. So I have two bachelor's degrees, business-based bachelor's degrees, as well as a master's certificate in project management. So you may be wondering how I found myself in the agriculture and agri-food sector with those credentials and no previous farming experience. I grew up on the island of Newfoundland in Canada in a small community that was heavily rooted in farming. I was always encouraged in my interest in agriculture by my family, who shared the same interests. But as I got older, I realized that the resources to educate myself professionally within this field were severely lacking, not only in my respective province, but Canada-wide. It was also difficult to picture what it meant to work in agriculture if I was not a primary producer, as there was little to no representation of this for me or my peers. I would share with my friends that I want to work in agriculture, and they would ask what the word agriculture meant. I knew back then that I would make it my purpose to work diligently to ensure that agriculture was not a foreign word to the youth of our province as well as country. After graduation, I found myself in the role of marketing and promotions coordinator with Agriculture in the Classroom Newfoundland and Labrador, which is one of our provincial members right now. And from there, I moved on to several other project management jobs regarding the sustainability of agriculture, such as the Living Laboratories Initiative in Newfoundland and Labrador, which has to do with best management practices and sustainable ag, as well as the Newfoundland and Labrador Young Farmers Forum, all while sitting on several volunteer committees, working groups, board of directors, directly correlating with the importance of agriculture education, as that is my passion. So including the Canadian Agriculture Youth Council by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, which Menilek mentioned previously. I was a part of the first cohort of that council. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Agriculture in the Classroom Canada. Our vision is agriculture in every classroom, inspiring every student. Our mission is to cultivate a meaningful connection to agriculture and food for students and educators, much like Bella was discussing earlier. And Agriculture in the Classroom Canada's role is to bring agriculture education to a national stage using our 10 provincial member organizations, which you'll see in the picture to the right there. So our 10 provincial member organizations, with the support of our national organization, create over 2 million student experiences annually from kindergarten to grade 12, all throughout Canada. So we provide foundational support and tools to empower our provincial organizations, because they're our boots on the ground. And we create national programs, resources, and initiatives that are accurate, balanced, and current. We call it ABC. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit about what we do best. You may recognize some of these programs, you may not, but if you don't, I do encourage you to check out our website, our AITC Canada website, which I'd be willing to provide anyone with after our chat to kind of look in a little bit more and see if this is something that would be a relevancy in your region. So the first one is Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month, which we refer to fondly as CALM. This dives into the heart of agriculture every March. The captivating program connects farmers, agriculture professionals, and eager students from coast to coast. CALM puts a human face in the world of food production and sparks students' curiosity about sustainable farming practices and the future of agriculture. So all across Canada, volunteers will go into classrooms and teach about agriculture, sustainable practices, farming. This can be producers, people who work in ag, that sort of thing. Next up, the Great Canadian Farm Tour. This presents 10 live virtual expeditions throughout Canada. So this was actually started during 2020 when classes were remote. So it was virtual farm tours that you were able to view in your classroom. So they highlight the rich diversity and importance of Canadian agriculture, and the tours establish a dynamic platform for fostering discussions and facilitating learning by connecting students and educators from across the country with farmers virtually. Next up, Mission Explorium. It's an exciting new program that we just launched this year through a fun and engaging national competition, again, virtually. Students will explore the UN pillars of sustainability, take on fun curriculum-related challenges. That's the basis of a lot of our programs, is they have to be curriculum linked. So we're not putting anything extra on teachers. Then we have our National Think Ag initiative, which is my wheelhouse, and we strive to cultivate curiosity and spark interest in agriculture and food careers by connecting educators, parents, and students with curriculum-linked learning tools, interactive experiences, and probably a phrase you'll hear a lot throughout this call, effective career pathway tools. We have a resource library, which provides students across Canada access to free resources that enhance learning experiences for students. Teachers can select resources that align with their learning objectives, and within this platform, AITC can ensure that they receive accurate, balanced, and current information for their classrooms. So again, without putting anything extra on the teacher, they can fit it into their curriculum. We have the Little Green Thumbs and Little Green Sprout Gardens. They're indoor gardening programs that bring the wonder and curiosity of food production to life in classrooms across the country. So the gardens are living laboratories and a place where students can learn and apply real life STEM skills. So the Little Green Thumbs program links to grade 3 curriculum, and Little Green Sprouts links to kindergarten in Canada, and they're actual physical gardens that are put in classrooms all across Canada, used as a learning tool. And lastly, I Am Ag, which is a bilingual French and English social media campaign aimed at young Canadians to promote the diversity of careers in agriculture and agri-food. The interactive campaign celebrates the uniqueness of individuals and encourages students to explore careers that suit their interests, skills, and personalities. So it's a bit of an awareness campaign, which I'll kind of put a call to action at the end of this. Next slide, please. So how our work coincides. The increasingly urban nature of our population base has led to a disconnect between food producers and consumers, creating the perception that working in agriculture means only farming. Yet 1 in 9 jobs in Canada is the agriculture and agri-food sector. The career opportunities are diverse and plentiful. A resilient agricultural sector positions Canada not only to meet the demand for food, but to be a global leader in innovative food production practices and an agricultural powerhouse. However, this will only be possible if we can fill the growing number of job vacancies in agriculture and food with qualified personnel from a variety of backgrounds with wide-ranging skill sets. To fill the vacancies with today's students, teachers, and career counselors must be made aware of opportunities in agriculture, as well as the many career pathways available to get there. So this is where our work ties heavily with the thematic area of the NAAAN of building the next generation of leaders in agriculture. There are a multitude of organizations within the agriculture and food community that have outlined the importance of promoting the diversity and abundance of careers within the sector, and several of them have taken steps towards advancing these efforts. But Agriculture in the Classroom Canada is uniquely positioned to allow for a streamlined approach in the promotion of agriculture and food careers via our Think Ag platform and our provincial member associations, which are vehicles into the classrooms with direct access to school divisions, educators, and career counselors across Canada. So we look forward to building connections and making relationships with the NAAAN going forward and working towards similar goals and aspirations that way. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide, and it's just a bit of a call to action for our I Am Ag campaign. So if you are feeling up to it, you can upload a photo, select your personal attributes, and create a video to share your ag story. So the campaign, again, is called I Am Ag. And it celebrates the uniqueness and shows others that there's a place for everyone in our great industry. And it also feeds into our I Am the Future campaign, which is targeted towards students. So that is to help us grow our industry. And the cool video tool matches their strengths and interests to careers in agriculture so that they can see themselves in the future. And that's all from me. Thank you. Nikita?
Thank you, Kalysha. Hi, and my name is Nikita. Actually, I will introduce while I'm going through the slides. So next slide, please. Yeah, so I'm originally from Nepal, where agriculture is a major occupation, where about 70% of the total population are engaged in agriculture. Next slide, please. However, my country still suffers from hunger and malnutrition issue. Also, the children below 5 years old, they are still suffering from deadly diarrheal diseases. Next slide, please. So I thought about it and kind of did a little research on it, like why is this a problem? Why is this all happening? Next slide, please. So I realized that there's really a huge gap in research, education, and awareness effort Also, the country where about 40% of the total population is youth, they are not being utilized properly. So they're basically underutilized. I also realized that there's a lack of skilled human resource in the country because of huge immigration happening around. So next slide, please. So I decided I will skill myself, make more experience, and then I also got interested in more research, and I pursued a graduate school. Here, I'm currently a grad student at University of Florida. I'm doing a master's in food science. Basically, my research is focused on controlling foodborne illnesses in fresh produce. So foodborne illnesses is again a huge burden and causing and affecting about one in every 10 people worldwide. So it's a big problem. So during this phase, the years, I have gained different experience about project planning, critical thinking, and also problem solving. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I also want to share my knowledge and experience through different blogs, community blogs, extension publication, peer review publication, and also in academic conferences. So I realized this is really a best way to communicate and connect with general audiences. And also there were some instances, for example, in 2017, I wrote this blog about a young farmer in Nepal, so which inspired so many young people to take up agriculture as their major profession, which is, I think, a very impactful. Next slide, please. I'm also involved in different youth network worldwide. So I truly believe being connected being connected with like-minded people is really help empower ourselves towards our goal, which is I think the most common goal here we all have is to make a sustainable agri-food system to help world a secure place to live, right? So everybody in this, most self-driven young people who are in the network, I take inspirations from them everywhere. Like also here, everybody has so much of experience, individual experience, and then we learn from each other every day. Also, this is a great platform for networking and knowledge sharing opportunities. So what we are exactly doing right now, right? We're connecting and sharing each other's experience. So this is one of the, I think this network, one of the best thing happened to me as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so during my, I would say, professional career, I also get engaged in some policy, in national as well as regional policy making dialogues, and also project plannings and all, which I think is helping young people become more inclusive in the decision making level and the policy making level. So I think it's a best outcome for both young people as well as a whole organization or forum, and even in a community level for the best outcome. So we are actually, due to our collaborative effort, I believe we are we're trying to making even a bigger change here. Next slide, please. So yeah, way forward with YPART USA, as I'm currently a YPART country representative for USA. I am interested in building this workforce of young professional in the United States, as well as expanding this network in whole North American region. And I think here NAAAN could play a huge part, because yeah, NAAAN is a huge network of different expertise, and together we can collaborate our work for let's say mentorship events, networking, professional developing, as well as community services. So YPART and NAAAN have, again, similar mutual goals to aware people about agriculture. So we can do that together way forward as well. So yeah, with that, next slide. Yes, so I will act upon, sorry, I might have mispronounced your name. Please forgive me for that. But yeah, Gala.
Thank you, Nikita. I want to once more make sure if anyone has not yet joined the Wordly translation, Maddie just put the link in the chat again, and you can also join via QR code. We have Guadalupe joining us next, and she will be speaking in Spanish, so you can see closed captioning or translation on your phone as needed. So thank you, Guadalupe.
Yes, sí, lista.
Estamos listos. Sí, gracias, Guadalupe.
Sí, gracias. Buen día a todos. Un gusto saludarlos. Mi nombre es Guadalupe Lopez Soto, de México. Soy ingeniero en alimentos, acá de la Universidad del Estado de Hidalgo, México, y actualmente soy coordinadora estatal de Fuerza MX. Fuerza es una fundación de emprendimiento social, la cual ya tenemos 6 años trabajando aquí en el país de México, pero es el modelo de 4H en Estados Unidos, 4S en México. La siguiente, por favor. El objetivo de Fuerza es precisamente el desarrollo de habilidades y potencializar los talentos de los jóvenes de las diferentes universidades con las cuales tenemos convenio de colaboración, tenemos sinergia y vinculación. Tenemos alrededor de 19 universidades acá en México trabajando con los jóvenes. Aquí es un ejemplo de un huerto escolar con chicos de 6º año de primaria. Están implementando lo que son los huertos, y como ya habían comentado algunos compañeros, pues realmente nosotros estamos fortaleciendo los programas educativos con las universidades y con las primarias acá de nuestro país. La siguiente, por favor. Bueno, Nosotros tenemos diferentes chicos de las universidades en diferentes áreas profesionales. En este caso, lo que hacemos también es que ellos desarrollen un proyecto de emprendimiento social capacitando a diversos productores. Aquí tenemos un ejemplo de algunos invernaderos, plantación de flores de ornato. Y aquí están los jóvenes ya trabajando, capacitando, es decir, nosotros los orientamos con gente real, con problemas reales, para que ellos realmente desarrollen esas habilidades que ya tienen previas a la universidad y ya las implementen de manera práctica. Aquí ya nosotros ya logramos, Fuerza ya logró la capacitación con estos productores y actualmente ya están exportando a Japón. La siguiente, por favor. Aquí nuevamente tenemos otro ejemplo de los chicos que ya están implementando. Bueno, aquí esta persona, aquí está el técnico está capacitando a productores de jitomate aquí en México sobre todo en el tema de uso de suelo. Ya no utilizar fertilizantes, sino mejorar el suelo, mejorar el crecimiento, pero sobre todo mejorar la rentabilidad en la producción del jitomate, y lo estamos implementando en diferentes estados con diferentes chicos, es decir, tenemos ya nosotros también alianzas con las instituciones gubernamentales, con gobiernos estatales, federales, para que de ahí también podamos hacer esa sinergia, podamos generar esa unión entre las instituciones, la parte política pública y sobre todo la parte social, para ir poder aterrizando este tipo de capacitaciones, tanto con los productores, las instituciones y sobre todo los jóvenes, porque como bien lo decían, es un gran reto que tenemos nosotros, y por lo que vemos pues es a nivel mundial, que los jóvenes estén involucrando en la parte de los alimentos, porque realmente tenemos mucha tecnología, tenemos todo para poderlo ir aterrizando, pero hay que irlo enfocando y hay que irlo encauzando realmente a lo que nosotros tenemos. No es un problema ahorita lo que es la seguridad alimentaria, la soberanía alimentaria, y que realmente tenemos un gran reto, pero sobre todo un gran compromiso. La siguiente, por favor. Bueno, y aquí tenemos otro claro ejemplo. Este es un ejemplo muy, muy pequeño, pero sobre todo muy importante porque es la base fundamental. En Fuerza tenemos el programa que se llama Granjeando, pero de ahí se derivan muchísimos proyectos. Entonces, estamos nosotros muy interesados en entrar en la capacitación, sobre todo con los niños pequeños, porque son las próximas también generaciones de líderes, de jóvenes que realmente estén interesados en lo que son los huertos urbanos, huertos escolares, huertos rurales, para cuidar cada rincón y generar cada rincón que sea verde para esta casa que les llamo, que es nuestra tierra. La siguiente, por favor. Bueno, y aquí nuevamente, pues estamos hablando de que es una secundaria en el estado de Morelos, en México. Están elaborando un proyecto de lombricomposta a través de residuos sólidos por parte del personal de la Secretaría de Desarrollo Agropecuario, alumnos y plantel educativo. Entonces, realmente, como les mencionaba, es un reto muy grande que tenemos para poder involucrar a los chicos que son la próxima generación de líderes en temas de agricultura. En México ya tenemos alrededor de 1,000 niños y 1,000 jóvenes que han sido capacitados, y que tenemos realmente jóvenes trabajando con gente real, con productores, desde capacitaciones, asesorías, acompañamiento. 1,200 estudiantes ya trabajando, ya produciendo, ya en lo que es el sector primario. O sea, realmente sí hemos venido trabajando todo este tiempo, pero sobre todo pues hemos estado muy comprometidos, y la verdad es que estamos muy agradecidos pues con los gobiernos, pero ahora en esta ocasión pues que nos permitan ser parte del NAAN, ¿no? Que realmente es el generar esa sinergia, el generar esa vinculación para que entre todos, me da mucho gusto la verdad escuchar a mis compañeros que me antecedieron, escucharlos, Kerry sobre todo, gran esta persona en el que ella trata de, pues precisamente no nada más es de preocuparnos, sino también de ocuparnos y de generar esas acciones que realmente van a trascender para tener pues mejores alimentos, ¿no? Porque que realmente en la actualidad pues la industria pues hace productos que no son tan benéficos para nuestra salud, pero estamos trabajando de manera ardua acá en nuestro país y sin duda lo vamos a lograr, vamos a expandir todas estas redes, todos estos clubs con los jóvenes de 4S para que se sigan sumando desde sus comunidades, desde sus trincheras, para poder aportar y poder generar este beneficio, este desarrollo sostenible para todos. La siguiente, por favor. Y bueno, aquí tenemos un claro ejemplo de lo que les comentaba. Tenemos la tecnología, tenemos todo para seguir generando esta creación, esta conciencia social. Son unos jóvenes de servicio social de la carrera de agronomía, pero comentaba que ellos ya diseñaron, o sea, ellos están encauzando la tecnología para bien de todos. Un sensor para, digamos, las plántulas, para los sembradíos, para que en el momento que ellos requieran cierta cantidad ya les mencionaba, cantidad de agua que requiere la planta, la cantidad de fertilizante, biofertilizante que ahorita ya se está implementando, pues ya el sensor ya te lo detecta y ya te va diciendo, no es como antes, ¿no? Que éramos así como que adivinábamos o veíamos, ¿no? Que cuánto le hace falta, no, aquí ya realmente ya te detecta cuánta cantidad y qué cantidad es la que se requiere. Entonces, realmente este tipo de profesionales, de profesionistas que nosotros captamos de las universidades de México es lo que buscamos, que ellos desarrollen esas habilidades, pero que no se queden aquí, sino que se expandan a otros países, a otros mundos, a otros sectores, donde ellos puedan realmente aportar y desarrollar. La siguiente, por favor. Y bueno, pues aquí les comentaba, ¿no? La próxima generación de líderes. Aquí es una escuela primaria, es una escuela rural, donde nos enfocamos con los pequeños a concientizar. Sabemos que no van a salir de aquí ingenieros agrónomos, pero sin embargo, lo que hacemos es empezar a concientizar, a sensibilizar a los pequeños en sus huertos. Venimos de una pandemia donde realmente nos demostró que no estamos preparados para lo que es realmente una seguridad alimentaria. Entonces aquí los pequeños empiezan desde ver, empezar a tener contacto físico con nuestra naturaleza, con la naturaleza, o sea, que ellos vean el trabajo, vean cómo se va implementando y créanme de verdad que ellos se involucran ellos, se involucra la comunidad, se involucran los papás y entonces vamos generando que el niño también vamos generando un poco de desarrollo económico, porque los niños dicen, bueno, vamos a plantar, vamos a las acelgas, los espárragos, bueno, todo lo que podamos sembrar en el huerto, lo cosechan y ellos mismos empiezan a generar ese desarrollo económico. Entonces, realmente son herramientas básicas, primordiales, para que desde esta temprana edad ellos empiecen a generar esas acciones y se empiecen a sumar realmente a lo que es la producción de los alimentos. La siguiente, por favor. Y bueno, pues nada más para finalizar, comentarles que tenemos en México, pues ya tenemos vinculación con más de 19 universidades, 1000 niños capacitados, productores, artesanos, que bueno, realmente ellos los estamos impulsando para que potencialicen sus habilidades, potencialicen sus talentos, generar esas acciones que nos van a beneficiar en un futuro. Los invitamos a que se registren en nuestras plataformas, Fuerza 911 y que nos sigan nuestras redes, pero sobre todo que sigamos generando esa vinculación y esa sinergia entre todos para que podamos tener realmente un sector alimentario benéfico para todos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to gallery. Thank you. Let's do a round of applause for 5 excellent presentations. We thank you all very much. Yeah, right? That was great. And we have a good opportunity to really learn a little bit of a snapshot of what's taking place in all 3 of the countries in North America and the opportunity to begin, actually, this is not a one-time thing. So this conversation will begin and continue on Connect as part of our NAAAN activities. So we wanted a little bit of time. I know we're short on time. We had such great presentations. So Let's hear from the panelists first of your work together and the next steps that you want. And then we'd like to take questions from the audience and anything that you would like to ask of either of our five panelists. And we will continue this on Connect even past this conversation. So Bella and Kalysha, can I turn it over to you guys for a start? And then we can think about conversation with the entire group, please. Was
Yeah,
there something
absolutely.
burning, something that you wanted to follow up with or continue on?
I think there's so many opportunities between all of our countries to really share what's happening. I know that in the US, we have ag in the classroom and it's very state-based. And so states that participate in less agriculture have less strong ag in the classroom. And when I listen to what ag in the classroom in Canada is doing, it's so exciting. Like through everything you were saying, Kalysha, I was like, wow, that's awesome. So there's just these opportunities, I think, between our countries, and we have so much that we share, grasslands that run through all of us, migratory bird pathways, all of these things, we can start to share education as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would elaborate on that and saying that it's important that we are having these conversations for more reason than one. We have a lot that we can share with one another, but also like sometimes there's just really no need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we can just tweak things that we're doing in certain areas and they can work just as well, right? And then we can work together to build them out and make them more powerful that way. When we all have the same agenda and end goal, like the three thematic areas, for example, it works well if we're just constantly participating in extension services with one another, such as just having these discussions and really being in the know of what is going on in all of each other's regions.
That's right. En Guadalupe, gracias también por su historia y por la información de Mexico. It was really, really special to receive that information and to understand more of what's taking place in Fuerza in Mexico with our colleagues from SADER. So we thank you for that. I'm going to open it up for conversation. Anything else that any of the other panelists would like to chime in with? Or yeah, Menilek, please.
It's great to catch up with all of you guys and hear about what you're doing. I don't want to throw it back at people individually, but I guess when I was listening to Bella and Kalysha and thinking about like youth, even more youther than us, I was really curious about that sort of defining age when it came to people picking out their, career and their potential future. I know with myself, I was interested in being an environmentalist from a really early age. And so I think this idea of like communicating with later generations, in the case of someone who's maybe just in elementary school figuring it out, that later generation might be somebody who's in high school or college. So I'm curious about that mentee mentorship sort of thing and maybe how we can connect with kids who are coming into maybe secondary and post-secondary education as well. I'll throw an example here at the University of Toronto where we have programs that are targeted to particularly Black youth in elementary school and high school. And so we get undergraduate students to go out to these these schools and communicate with youth about post-secondary education. So something like that for kids to just take them out to a farm and do stuff like that. So Kalysha, I'm sure you have examples of stuff like that, and you maybe even gave one with the virtual tour, but I'm curious about what your guys' thoughts are and like, how do we get that to be connected to something like the NAAAN CONNECT?
That's great. Thank you.
That I can take that. So basically we work in K to 12. So, we're aware of the fact that interest sparks young, and that kind of lays the base for education in agriculture, but we do follow it through to the elementary and high schools where we are working through our Think Ag program. It's mostly targeted to career courses in high schools across Canada because that's where it links into the curriculum. But it's interesting that you say that, because this year, as we build out career pathways on our Think Ag website, we are making partnerships with universities as we move through that to ensure that we're including post-secondary in the conversation, because not only is it important, like you mentioned, Menilek, for mentorship purposes, it's also important just to kind of have that open conversation with universities, as there's recruiters, right, on that end that are kind of looking for the same things that we're looking for. So it's just important partnerships to have. And we are working diligently on that on AITC Canada's side. So that's great. That was an awesome point.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? In terms of in the time we have, and any questions that you have from, you can hold your hand up or write them into the chat, either one, but you can come off camera to ask questions and to continue the conversation. How many people, just out of curiosity, how many are attending from Mexico currently? Do we have a count? Rebecca, from who all's on? I see we have two groups.
Yeah, we'll have to see who all has joined at the end. We can pull a list of who's joined from each country.
And we'll have the slides up, and any of the references that have been listed also will go into that area of building the next generation of leaders in ag on Connect as well as we begin. And then I see Bill Hendricks on. Sure, Isabel, please. Bella.
Yeah, one thing I would just add at this point is almost a call to action from all of us is, in order for this inclusion and to be a part of the NAAAN, while we are leaders when it comes to our peers, we're also wanting leaders, right? We're hoping for the wisdom of folks who have been in ag or ed or all of these things for a long time. I know I am. I'm feel like I can speak for all, but we're looking for more opportunities, and that's where that's really going to come from. It's an invitation for us. It's hard to be. I'll say, it's hard to be, as I said, the representation from a generation. We're looking for that support to be stronger leaders in this as well. So that was just my plug.
I love it. Excellent. Well, and any other questions from the audience or ideas that have been kind of ignited through these presentations in terms of some of our next steps and how we can take this forward? I see many colleagues from USDA and NIFA on, also from Canada and Mexico. What we can do is, yeah, Menilek, please. Do you have another question or a comment?
Maybe I'll let Bill go because I already asked a question,
okay.
And then I'll throw it in.
Thank you. Bill, please.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I just wanted to follow up on the last comment Isabel made, looking for engagement with other generations and what that might look like. You mentioned, and I thought it was really interesting there at the very last, about you're looking for roles, I think, to be leaders in other organizations to bring the voice. Or are you thinking more two-way streets? But what are you and others that presented today really thinking how different generations can engage with you and take it to the next level?
Yeah, thanks. I think that it definitely is a two-way street. What I was seeing is, on the land as a producer, I'm seeing older generations having challenges but not knowing who to go to, and younger generations having skills to build, and this is on a very technical level, but someone having a water problem, a water system problem in a rocky area and can't afford NRCS programs or EQIP programs, or they're not going to be effective. And so how can we have a challenge that an organization or a system that is already in place, how can we pose that to younger generations as an opportunity for their skills to be showcased? And I think that that's where that two-way street goes, it's definitely going to take us coming with our ideas as well. But I think when we build a generation of solution-oriented people, we can also focus on posing challenges to them and allowing their skills to shine through there.
That's great. Nikita, yes, thanks, Bella, and thanks, Bella, yes?
Yeah, actually, just to piggyback with Bella, I just wanted to add, I think although like I said, I've seen so many young people who are really motivated to do something good, right? But I think lack of financial support is also a main thing, which is I think a huge drive force to demotivate yourself. So I think that also could be another important part, financial support. Also the research opportunities that I mentioned in the slides. Lots of students, especially in developing countries, they are missing out of these opportunities, even though they have a capacity, but they are not being able to really connect with the bigger institutions. So I think that's where maybe the network like this could help. NAAAN has a bigger network worldwide, right, through GFAR still. So I think that could be another important thing. Thank you.
That's important. Yes, thank you. And I see we don't have time today, but I think for another conversation, I know there's a next gen activity between USDA and NIFA. And I think it'd be interesting to know how that fits into the work of the NAAAN across our 3 countries and what we could do to help, as we said, not reinvent the wheel, but elevate the conversations that are currently taking place and share those out. So we'd like to very much work in tandem with all 3 of the countries and make sure that we're really raising the bar and the information that we can share out and creating maybe mentorships, internships. I love the idea of the mixed generations as well. And I think that's something to think about. I'm not so sure that's really being practiced in many places. It's interesting. Menilek, do you have another thought?
Yeah, just in considering how much time we have, I'm real quick. I really love what the thematic goals are for NAAAN, and also hearing the conversations that are happening today. It was interesting to think about how some of these maybe more specific challenges related to, say, communication, for example, across the 3 countries. So in Canada, we speak English and French, and then in the US, English and Spanish, and then Mexico, Spanish. Sort of like, how do we bridge the communication gap? We're doing it great with Wordly, but how can we also maybe do that with like programming or resources in the NAAAN? And then maybe again, just started to defining some of those like more specific challenges that working groups or groups can start to form around and maybe engage on in, yeah, maybe more informal conversation. So I don't want to go too much into it, but I think there's like a real opportunity to just have like organic conversations that we can all address some of these challenges and just pose challenges to each other.
That's great. Thank you very much. You know, and with that, with 1 minute to go, and we know you're all very busy people, but how about a round of applause for our 5 speakers and the great work that you guys did. Thank you for sharing your passion, your areas of study, as well as where you're going. And the takeover actually of Connect is all you. So thank you, and make it happen. And we'll be there to support you and to make sure that this is something that we can do together. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone who joined. Really appreciate it. More soon.